Today's theme is more than just a slogan. It's a call to action. We also gather at a time of profound difficulty. The state of the world can feel overwhelming. There's conflict, displacement, injustice. From Palestine to Ukraine, from Sudan to so many other places around the world, affecting far more people than any of us can even fathom. We see the pain and resilience of young people whose voices too often go unheard. But today, we honor them. We remember them and we commit as young leaders of today and tomorrow to do better, to act boldly, and to build a more just and peaceful world for all. This is not just a celebration. It's an opportunity for connection and contribution. We invite you, the youth, to be fully engaged today. You can share your aspirations, your hopes, and your dreams with us by commenting via the QR code that you see on the screen above me. This is your space, your global platform, and we would love to hear from you. I'll be reading your reflections and comments throughout the event, so please include your name when you're commenting. Thank you. Okay, and now without further ado, it is my honor to welcome Mr. Daniel Obst, President and CEO of AFS Intercultural Programs, to deliver his introductory remarks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yumna, and good afternoon to everyone. It's such a joy to see a room full of young leaders from all around the world. Really amazing that you are all here, that you've traveled from far away or from nearby, and we are so honored that you're joining us here today. And you're not just from around the world, you're not just representing countries, you represent much more than countries. You represent possibility. And today, and this is a great hall of nations, you're not just guests, but you are partners in shaping the future. Our deepest thanks go to the Permanent Mission of Malta to the United Nations and Chargé d'Affaires Albert Grech, as well as UNITAR and Samim Hamidi for collaborating with us on today's celebration, and to all the other honorable speakers who are joining us on both of our panels today. Your support truly speaks to your commitment to youth empowerment and global citizenship. I'm also very grateful to Dr. Felipe Paulier, the Assistant Secretary General for Youth Affairs, and you'll hear from him in just a moment. We're gathering here today for a celebration in advance of International Youth Day. And our theme for International Youth Day, as Yumna mentioned, is Youth Advancing Multilateral Cooperation Through Technology and Partnerships. And from Nairobi to New York, from Jakarta to Johannesburg, young people are forging solutions across borders. And I've been so inspired. I've met many of you today or in the last few days, and the things you are doing are not just impressive, but also personally really inspiring. And you are building climate tech, you're launching peace-building platforms, and you're creating networks of solidarity that governments alone could never achieve. And you are really proving that global challenges demand global citizens. And that's exactly where AFS comes in. For more than a century, our mission has been to foster a more just and peaceful world through intercultural learning. Every day, AFS works to empower young people with intercultural skills, with empathy, and with a vision to lead in a connected world. And we don't just believe in global citizenship. We build it, one exchange, one dialogue, one change maker at a time. And over the past 75 years, more than 500,000 young leaders have participated in AFS programs. It's an incredible legacy. And many of the young leaders in the room here today are part of the 2025 AFS Youth Assembly. And applause to all of those who are here for the Youth Assembly. And the Youth Assembly is a platform that brings together the next generation of global leaders, not just to wait for their turn, but to claim their place now, to be a change maker, not someday in the future, but today. And I want to come back briefly to the theme of today, which relates to technology and partnerships. Technology, of course, has played a central role in expanding access to information and opportunity, and we need that. But here's the truth. Technology can connect us, but only people can unite us. And unity is what the world needs most right now. The ultimate mission of AFS is peace, and there's no peace without unity. And everywhere we look, we see a fractured world. We see young people starving in Gaza. We see people displaced by bombs in Kiev, fleeing civil war in Khartoum and unable to learn in Kabul. Young people cannot claim their place and reach their full potential when they're fighting to survive. And the world needs to unite in condemnation to these humanitarian disasters. So I say this to each of you: keep building partnerships that cross borders and build unity. And not just partnerships, but friendships. The founders of AFS were volunteer ambulance drivers who experienced the carnage of the two wars. And that experience led them to form the AFS we know now, which is built on the idea that friendships across borders lead to a more just and peaceful world. So I leave you with this: keep showing the world that youth leadership isn't just the future, it's the force that will shape the future. So thank you very much. Thank you. And it's now my honor to introduce by video the Assistant Secretary General for Youth Affairs, Dr. Felipe Paulier.
Hello, hola, bonjour, ni hao, assalamu alaikum, privyet. Happy International Youth Day. I'm Felipe Paulier, the United Nations Assistant Secretary General for Youth Affairs, and I'm very excited to mark this global moment with all of you. Today, we shine a light on the 1.9 billion young people driving change in every corner of the world. This year's theme is about local action for the Sustainable Development Goals. And it is a powerful reminder that the biggest transformations begins with local actions and local leadership. Young people are leading change with purpose, from local campaigns to global peace efforts, building trust between cultures and creating real impact. That's why today marks the launch of a 6-week mobilization campaign from the United Nations Youth Office, focusing on youth, peace, and local action. Starting now until International Day of Peace, we want to elevate stories of young change makers building peace, fostering inclusion, and strengthening resilience, especially in communities emerging from crisis. This activism is powered by the voices of young people. It's powered by your voices. And let me say it loudly: this moment is part of a bigger movement. In 2025, we mark 80 years of the United Nations, 30 years of the World Programme of Actions for Youth, and 10 years since the UN Security Council adopted its first resolution on youth and peace and security. These milestones remind us that youth are not just participants. You are partners in building a better world. At the heart of our work at the United Nations Youth Office, we have a commitment to helping young people navigate and shape the decisions that affect them. For that, we must transform institutions to be more inclusive, to be more accountable, and to be more youth responsive. Meaningful youth participation means engaging youth as equal partners. It means intergenerational collaboration. It means real trust. Because investing in youth isn't just about the future. It's about the world we live in today. So to every young person watching this, we see you leading. We see you already delivering solutions. And we are with you, working to make meaningful youth participation the norm. Thank you for your courage, for your creativity, and for your commitment to peace and justice. Right where you are, wherever in the world that may be. Once again, happy International Youth Day.
Thank you, Mr. Felipe Paulier, for being a pillar of support and inspiration for youth around the world and for sharing your message with us. I just want to kindly remind that if you would like to turn the volume up and you're not able to hear us too well, you can always use your earpiece, which is near your seat, so you can feel free to use that. All right, so let's get back into our program. So next, I have the honor of welcoming His Excellency Albert Grech, Chargé d'Affaires from the Permanent Mission of Malta to the UN. Your Excellency.
Thank you all. I want to begin these remarks by remembering the many youths and children who have had their lives destroyed due to armed conflict in the past year. As a country that is deeply attached to the principles of the UN Charter and international law, we mourn all those youths who were displaced, seriously injured, or killed. We call for concerted global efforts to address the ongoing phenomenon of children being killed or maimed with no apparent end in sight. Colleagues, I would like to thank UNITAR and AFS for once again creating this space for youth voices to be heard, valued, and elevated at a time when meaningful youth representation at the political level can sometimes seem like a distant prospect. This year's theme resonates directly with the crucial role young people must play in shaping a more connected, inclusive, and forward-looking world. These words aren't just diplomatic etiquette. Your presence here today is a powerful reminder that youth cannot just be participants in global conversations. You must have the space to be essential drivers of progress. Whether it's climate action, digital innovation, or encouraging political participation, the solutions of the future must be shaped with you and by you. Distinguished guests, digital tools have opened up exciting new possibilities for youth participation and democracy. Social media, AI, and digital platforms have become more powerful instruments for activism, mobilization, and education, enabling young people to participate in democratic processes on a global scale. However, digital exclusion, misinformation, and distrust in institutions are genuine issues that impact how young people interact with and are shaped by decision-making processes. With global inequality levels at record highs, the benefits of artificial intelligence and the digital revolution have also not been shared equally by all. If we want digital spaces to support democratic participation meaningfully, societies must equip young people to lead within them. This means building digital literacy, increasing access, and giving young people a leading voice in shaping the evolution of digital governance. And it aligns with Malta's strong support for the Global Digital Compact and our commitment to the SDGs. Malta supports the recognition of young people as co-creators of solutions and agents of diplomacy. The expected outcomes of this event, including the promotion of youth-led initiatives and the establishment of lasting partnerships, align directly with Malta's efforts to support structured, inclusive, and impactful youth engagement. However, engagement is not an end in itself. Democracy in the digital age must be about active participation, real influence, genuine freedom, and genuine accountability. It's our collective responsibility to ensure that young people not only participate in digital democracy, but also help shape what it becomes. The future of democracy is literally being written in code, shaped by algorithms and debated on digital platforms. Let us all work together to ensure that increasing numbers of young people have the skills and resources to be at the very center of decision-making on these issues. Excellencies, Malta remains committed to putting youth at the center of democracy in all its political engagements. As part of Malta's presidency of the Council of Europe, we will be hosting the 10th Ministerial Conference for Ministers responsible for youth in October, where we aim to adopt the Council of Europe reference framework on integrating youth in decision-making processes, ensuring that young people are not merely consulted, but serve as co-creators of policy. Whether it's through hackathons, consultations, or advocacy, we're also proud that Maltese youth are demonstrating that digital tools and partnerships can transform ideas into tangible change. In closing, we reiterate that young people must become essential partners in shaping a more inclusive, sustainable, and interconnected world. We welcome initiatives such as this, which provide meaningful spaces for youth engagement and empowerment. To all the young people here today, thank you for showing what leadership looks like. Thank you for driving change. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and a huge thank you to the Permanent Mission of Malta for your continued commitment to youth and collaboration for this global gathering every year. Thank you. And aligning with a few thoughts that you shared earlier, Ambassador, there's also a comment from the audience that I saw that it was very truthful to what you were saying about creating this space for young people. Robert Jara shares that I'm really grateful for having a space where young leaders can connect, share truths, and turn global challenges into real collaborative solutions. So thank you, Robert, for sharing that comment. Now we're going to be going into our next speaker. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Aza Karam, founding president and CEO of Lead Integrity, and she also serves as a member of the UN Secretary General's High-Level Advisory Board on Multilateralism. Please welcome her.
Thank you very much for the kind welcome, and sincere thanks to the co-sponsors, the American Friends Service Committee, the Mission of Malta, and UNITAR for the opportunity to be here with you today. I have worked in this institution for 20 years as a UN staff member. I have attended many meetings in this amazing space, usually full of diplomats and representatives from different countries, like you. But I can tell you with honesty that the most impressive moment to be in this room is right here, right now, with all of you. In spite of the features of this space where I am sitting on a podium, I believe my colleagues deserve this podium far more than I, but in spite of this setup, please know that I am the one in awe of all of you, even though I sit here and you sit around me. I owe you a future. My generation stands for a lot of lessons. Some of them good, you may know them, resilience. But my generation has also presented and continues to present a lot of lessons for what you do not need to do ever. Let me mention a few things. Where you look to my generation and these venerable institutions for change, opportunity, participation, inspiration, resources, I assure you that I look, and many like me, to you for exactly the same, if not more. Because my generation may have some very jaded, tired people, but your generation cannot afford to be tired. Your generation is not only an inspiration, it has a responsibility, yes, including to the elder ones. We may have wisdom, but boy, oh boy, do we need you. And we need you for our future. People keep saying youth are the future. Y'all, you are the present before you're the future. And we need a future too. And we need to depend on each and every single one of you for that future. That is a massive responsibility. But guess what? It's a responsibility that you each actually can bear with pride, with ability. You can bear if you open your hearts, not so much to the words of partnership and the spaces of it, but to the poetics of compassion and your ability to see one another as equals. Enough of being able to look down on one another and perpetuating a colonial poetics that has led us to a space which is nowhere, and we're going there fast. Join me for 1 second in 1 minute of silence where we can reflect and pay tribute to those children and young people your ages who are suffering at this very moment under myriad forms of violence, emotional, physical, social. Join me 1 minute of silence in tribute to each and all. Thank you. Your generation apparently are to be referred to as digital natives. I am not a digital native. But you wield technology, not only as a tool, but as an extension of your voice, of your identity, of activism, and therefore of power. remember that there is a distinction to be made between force and power. Force is force. Power is actually the ability to do good. I'm not sure how many of you have read a book called Force versus Power, or Power versus Force. The author of which I should know, but clear state of mind absence here, I forgot the name, but I have the name, I'll give it to them later. One of the things that it says in this book that I would wish you to keep in mind, that they did actual physical experiments with different people, different ages, from different parts of the world, to see how the physical body, responds to nice words, good words, kind words, and how the body responds to unkind words and unkind actions. And they realized and they could track a very real difference in the responses of our bodies. Today, we are living in a moment where violence is the norm, where we have let go of the very basic norms and standards which differentiate human society from animal society, i.e., law, where laws don't seem to mind or matter that much because those in power abuse and ignore the laws. You need to make changes dramatic to the societies we live in for our future. But know that human rights and international humanitarian laws, international law, including international human rights law, are our humanity. Yes, we will hear plenty of discredit, delegitimization. We don't need human rights laws. That's a Western imposition. Guess what? It never was a Western imposition. They were made by people like you generations ago, who came together and put together the common values to all of us, values which are common from our respective cultures and traditions. And based on those common values, we have today what is called human rights and international human rights laws. Never for 1 second forget that these are the laws that we are now facing the discredit and delegitimization of. Human rights are the keys to our dignity. You cannot have dignity without rights. And if and when our laws are being abused, that is the moment to stand up and claim them and fight for them. We do have something to fight for. You have something to fight for. Human rights are worthy because it is the root to our human dignity, the shared human dignity. Please remember to espouse the courage and the bravery of solidarity. We keep thinking, because we are expecting quick fixes, I get very irritated when the computer takes too long to start up. We keep thinking of immediate gratification, but understand this. Solidarity, the kind of solidarity our world needs that is based on upholding rights of one another, the dignity of one another, that solidarity is not a quick fix. And guess what? It costs. It can cost energy, but more than that, as history has taught us, it can cost even lives. Enter into the space of transformation that is badly needed. We have no choice but to face a positive transformation. Enter into the space, please, with the wisdom that you may have a cost to pay. It is not going to be all nice and easy, floating wonders, wonderful to the top. There will be dips, there will be a price to pay, and nothing matters until you do it together. None of you can do things on their own. I promise you, with all the technology in the world, even if we had robots doing everything, we would still need one another. In fact, we may need one another even more. Please remember that human rights are a key, a tool for our dignity. Please remember that being alone will not get us where we need to be as a planet. And please remember that each one of you is as strong as your ability to link up very solidly with one another, especially with those whom you disagree with, especially with those whom you may be looking down on. For we do not lack the ability to look down on one another, but what we do lack is the ability to love in spite of the differences and the difficulties. And that is the hardest test of all for you and for the future that you today already are building. Thank you to each and every one of you for who you are and may you be blessed every step of the way together.
I don't think thank you does justice to everything you have just said in this room. But thank you, Dr. Karam, for your remarks. We are just honored to have you with us and get the opportunity to hear from you. It is through leaders like you that we're able to feel the courage to really step into this world with determination to make a real change. So thank you again. Now, I would like to welcome Mr. Samim Hamidi from the Division of Multilateral Diplomacy at UNITAR. Please give him a warm welcome.
Hello, everyone. Welcome and good afternoon. It's such exciting to be among all of you, and it's a pleasure to see this conference room is full of youths. In order to find it out, I'm really curious to know that from where are you joining? So those who are joining from Asian countries, could you please raise your hands? Give him a round of applause for those who are coming from Asian countries. Those who are coming from European countries, raise your hands. African countries, welcome. Americans, oh, excellent, welcome all of you. Excellencies, distinguished guests, partners, and most importantly, change makers. Today, as we celebrate International Youth Day, we are not just recognizing a date on calendar. We are celebrating you. We are celebrating your dreams, your courage, and your commitment to building a better world. And we are standing here together to say, we see you, we hear you, and we believe in your power to shape the future. My name is Samim Hamidi, and I come from Afghanistan, a country that has been shaped by conflicts for decades. And yet, I sit here today not just as an Afghan, but someone who works at UNITAR, the United Nations Institute for Training and Research. And let me tell you honestly, this moment right now, what's important for me and is deeply meaningful for me. I grew up in a small village, still inside of Kabul. Kabul is capital of Afghanistan, those who don't know. We are going to school meant walking 1 hour every single day. When I say school, I'm not talking about a building with a proper classroom, desk, and blackboards. I mean a patch of a ground where kids sat around one teacher. No classroom, no textbook, nothing fancy. We waited months for book to arrive. I still remember the cotton school bag I carried with the word UNICEF printed on it. I didn't even know what's UNICEF at that time. But that bag means something to me. It made me feel that someone out there in the wider world cared for us. When I reached high school and university, things became even harder. Safety was a daily concern. I remember a time when I missed bomb explosion by just few meters and few minutes. Back in our family, before we go to school or to the university, I properly remember that we said proper goodbye with our parents because we were not sure that whether we will be back alive or not at evening. This isn't just my story. It is the history of millions of young people around the world trying to learn, grow, and live with the dignity in the middle of crisis. So the big question is, do we give up? No, we rise. Because even in the darkest time, each of us has a chance, a spark, a purpose. If a boy from a village in Afghanistan who studied without a classroom and faced daily threats can stand here today and speak at the United Nations, so you can too. Each one of you has the ability to do something powerful, something meaningful. At UNITAR, the work we do is all about making that possible. We create learning spaces, we support young professionals, and we help build bridges between youth and the world of diplomacy, international cooperation, and the United Nations system. Just last year, UNITAR reached over 500,000 people through its training programs. But this is not just a number. These are people with a story, people like you and people like me. And in our small team, we ran one of my favorite initiatives, the UN Immersion Program. Just this week, I was with a group of around 35 international participants coming from the 30 different countries for the week of UN Immersion Program in New York. So I'm asking the UN Immersion team, please identify yourself. Where are you sitting? Where are you hiding? Raise your hands. Welcome, all of you. It was such a pleasure to host you. I learned a lot from you. Thanks for all your support through the week. What we started in Geneva has now expanded to New York, Vienna, The Hague, Paris, and Nairobi. I'm talking about the UN Immersion. Through this program, young people from around the world come together to experience the UN firsthand. They don't just sit in classrooms. They step into real UN buildings, attend high-level briefings, meet diplomats, and gain true feel for international cooperation. They build skills, but more importantly, they build confidence. So some go to work with the United Nations, some of them go to work with their governments, another go back to home, start a project, and help their communities. The point is, they grow and they lead. One thing that I have learned at UNITAR is this: young people aren't just future leaders. You are already leading. Around the world, youth are taking action on climate, on peace, on human rights, and on a new technology. You are not waiting for permission, but you are already doing it. Congratulations, all of you. And please don't forget, we see you, we admire your courage, and we are here to support you. My simple message to you all: if you have a dream, go for it. If the road gets hard, keep walking. If you fall, get up and keep going. Because if I could make it from that small classroom under the sky in Afghanistan to this stage at the United Nations, then you can too. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. I also want to say a big thanks to our strategic partner, AFS Intercultural Program and the Mission of Malta, for bringing together this amazing group of young minds. Your work in building bridges between culture is more important now than ever. To all of you in this room, and everyone joining us around the world, keep dreaming, keep learning, keep speaking up. The world needs your idea, your energy, and your courage. Let's keep moving forward together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hamidi, for sharing your experiences and a story that's truly your own to tell, and something I think we all can really learn from. And of course, we really, truly appreciate our collaboration with UNITAR for today's celebration. Thank you again. And I want to share a comment that we received from the audience members. Gabriella Gray has said, wow, quite a heartening speech. We are the present and the future. We are equal. Moreover, thank you for bringing mention to those who are in dire situations. Thank you, Gabriella, for mentioning that. Okay, so now we are going to be moving to our next speaker, who I'm really excited to hear from. Are you guys excited? I think I'm excited. So I'd like to call upon Ms. Daphne Frias, a youth advocate, a founder and executive director for Box the Ballot, and she's named Forbes 30 Under 30 in North America for her impact work this year. Give her a warm welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, the first time I ever walked into this room, I was 19 years old. I'm now 27. I walked into this room as a member of UNMGCY, the United Nations Major Group for Youth and Children, who I would eventually become the North American regional focal point for. It was my first time ever in the UN, and I sat right there in that corner, and the representative from the Dominican Republic, where my family was from, was sitting here in this very podium. And I came up to him after his intervention, and I said, one day I'll be exactly where you are. And look, I did it. So I share that story to not only remind you that no matter where you come from, who you are, what language you speak, how you identify, and the way that you carry yourself, there's no seat that is too big for you to fill. I'm going to share a story with you about my organization, Box the Ballot, and the work that we've done through the power of technology to make the world a better place. So, I first became eligible to vote during the 2016 election. While I was away in my undergraduate campus, I was eager to shape the future of my country, so I had to figure out how I was going to cast my ballot. I then turned to the absentee ballot system to mail in my ballot so I could make sure my vote counted. But I was so stunned about how difficult that process was. It was filled with deadlines and paperwork and logistical hurdles. All I wanted to do was vote. The frustration sparked the creation of my organization, Box the Ballot. 2 years later, the US approached its midterm elections, and I remembered how discouraged I was by simply casting my ballot. I'd grown up with my family telling me that turning 18 was going to be a life-changing year. I was going to be able to finally be part of the democracy of my country. However, it didn't feel that exciting. It felt complicated, it felt frustrating, and I knew that there needed to be a change. I didn't want others to experience the same barriers that I had. Every year, 4 million Americans become eligible to vote. The midterm elections 2 years later add another 8 million voters, and during the presidential cycles, that number doubles. Young adults, all of us in this room across our countries, are poised to become the largest voting demographic in the world. We are the key to our future. We are the key to the right now. With that in mind, I began reaching out to student organizations on college campuses using social media as their only tool, using Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, anything that I could get my hands on to reach out to young people on college campuses. Within 6 weeks, Box the Ballot had connected with over 30 student groups on college campuses. Many of them echoed the same struggles as I had with absentee ballots and voting. We mobilized, we raised funds to cover postage, secured ballot lock boxes where people could drop their ballot boxes on campuses, and despite never meeting in person, and remember, this was way before Zoom, so there were not even Zoom meetings, we collected over 300,000 ballots in under 6 weeks. Collecting those ballots across the country without ever meeting a single person reminded me that technology is the power for good, and it has the ability to connect us across borders and across boundaries. None of this would have been possible without the use of a smartphone and some Wi-Fi. It allowed us to dissolve state borders, bridge ideological differences, and build something much larger than ourselves. Technology gave us the ability to organize, fundraise, and mobilize, all digitally. But technology doesn't just connect people across geography. It also can level the playing field for young disabled people. As I stand here today as a proud disabled Latina occupying one of the most famous halls of the United Nations, I must talk about the way that my community is systematically pushed out of these rooms. During the pandemic, video conferencing kept us all connected. How many hours have we all spent on Zoom? The same kind of remote access is what disabled people have been long asking for, but we all rushed back to normal quickly, leaving much of that progress behind, and leaving those voices behind as well. The digital divide is real. Globally, nearly 1 billion people are in need of assistive technology. Screen readers, hearing aids, adapted input tools, they're all being denied. In many low and middle income countries, only 3% of assistive tech needs are being met, and about 80% of disabled people in developing countries lack even basic tools for access. Today, we take for granted being able to get on Zoom and being able to see people across the world, but for so many, that is not possible. Meanwhile, fewer than 40% of websites in the global south meet basic accessibility needs. There are many times where I'm trying to use the internet, and things like fonts and colors on certain websites make it hard for me to be able to interface with what's going on. Beyond disability, the broader tech gap is just as alarming. Around 3.7 billion worldwide still do not use the internet, mostly in Africa and Asia Pacific countries. Only 1 to 2% of adults can perform basic digital tasks in most of these nation states. As we work hard towards closing this digital gap, we must remember, equity must not come at the expense of our planet. The climate crisis is our greatest public health crisis to date. However, in our mission to achieve the SDGs, we have let public health be disguised as saviorism and many times colonialism. This has to change, and this must end. Expanding access to technology must go hand in hand with ending genocides in Palestine, Sudan, Haiti, and in many other countries around the world. It must also go hand in hand with removing the stigma around young women's bodies and ending the co-opting of youth voices. Box the Ballot is living proof of what inclusive youth-powered technology can achieve, dismantling borders, empowering civic participation, and making democracy more accessible. But true equality will only be realized when all young people, especially those with disabilities and from the most marginalized communities in the global south, have access to the tools they need in ways that protect both their future and the planet we share. So, in my closing sentiment, I ask you, the way that we can all go on our phones, even today, maybe if some of you paid to take the bus or the subway with your phone, those are privileges that we all take for granted. There are many people out there who don't know where their next meal is coming from, don't know how to even interface with international democracy, because yet again, we're sitting in the halls of the UN, speaking in English with Western-centric ideas, pushing out many of the ideologies of the rest of the world. We must ask ourselves, when are we going to stop only pushing for a world that is made for us to thrive, and instead push for a world that is made for everyone to thrive and for everyone to be seen and heard? And I believe that technology is really one of the keys to do that. But it's with using the power of technology to do something good, to open doors, and to make sure that all of our voices can be heard. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Daphne, for shedding light on how you use technology to really turn your ideas into a reality for hundreds of people. Now I'm going to be turning to our next speaker, and I have the honor of inviting Ms. Jenny McGregor, Global Head of Education Impact from Google. Please give her a warm welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. As Yumna said, my name is Jenny Magera, and I have the honor of serving as the Global Head of Education Impact. And I'll talk a little bit more about what exactly that means in a bit. But my background is not as a technologist, and I didn't take a traditional path to working at a big tech company like Google. I wanted to be a teacher when I grew up. I wanted to be a teacher since I was a 4th grader in Central Florida, the only kid who looked like me in my class. And my teacher, Miss Buckman, made me feel seen and worth my voice and heard. She didn't stereotype me as many of my other colleagues and neighbors and other teachers had. And I realized that a teacher has the power to really unleash and open up the true power of who we can be. And I thought to myself, I want to do that for other kids. So I set on that path as a 9-year-old. I went to school to become a teacher. I became a teacher, and I thought, great, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. But life has left turns for us. And as I continued to work in schools, I saw exactly what Daphne said, that technology has great power if used intentionally and thoughtfully. And that led me to begin using technology more to elevate the voices of the young people who I served in my classrooms in Chicago public schools. And then it led me to exploring how I could scale that thinking and that impact to more young voices all around the world. And as I continued in that journey, at one point, Google approached me and they said, Jenny, do you want to come and do that work at scale at Google? And at first I said, no, I don't want to sell Chromebooks and I don't want to sell ads. I don't want to work for Google. I thought, I'm trying to do good here. What's working for a big technology company going to do to help me reach people? And then I realized that when you can have the scope and scale of an organization like Google, and you have the big ideas and hopes and dreams that I had in my classroom on the south side of Chicago, and you bring those things together, maybe I could be someone who could use those powers for good. As Voltaire and Spider-Man's uncle once said, with great power comes great responsibility. And so when I took on my role at Google as Global Head of Education Impact, I had big ideas for how I was going to use this new position and this reach to bring technology to more hands. And Daphne, I so appreciate it. This paper says I can't turn my head or you guys can't hear me, so I'm just gonna do this. Thank you so much for the remarks that you made, and I think naming the digital divide is so important, and it's not enough to name it, it's to understand the texture of the digital divide. It's not just connectivity, access to technology, it's the know-how of how to use it, to leverage it. It's the mindset of the opportunity that can bring, but also being aware of the dangers and limits of technology as well. And when I came on board, I started at Google in February 2020. Does anyone else remember what happened in February 2020? I came to Google, and COVID came to the world. So about 2 weeks into my time, they call them nooglers, a new Googler. I was walking to work in Chicago. I lived about 2 blocks from the Google office, and my manager called me, and he said, hey, Jenny, are you at your desk yet? And I thought I was in trouble. I'm like, no, sir, I'm getting there right away. And he said, no, take your time, but as soon as you get there, I need your help to turn on Italy. And I said, what does that mean? I don't even know where the bathrooms are, much less the button to turn on Italy. And what exactly are we turning on in Italy? Well, it turns out that Italy was one of the first nations to move its school system to remote learning. And we were going to open up Google Classroom and all of our services for free to that nation to support them to move to digital learning. Now, as Daphne also named, Daphne, I'm just going to quote you this entire talk. I rewrote it while you were talking. We had that moment during the global pandemic where so many people were turning to technology to connect and to stay connected with each other. I remember being on Google Meet. I used Google Meet because I work at Google, not Zoom. But being on Google Meet and doing game nights with my loved ones. And I actually became more connected to my cousins, my aunties, my uncles, my neighbors, my friends from high school than I was before the pandemic, because all of a sudden, geography was no longer a variable in who I could be in touch with. Now, I would love to say that post-pandemic, as a technology employee, that I stayed and connected with folks the same way I did in those years, but truth be told, as Daphne named, I did not. But I think a lot about the moments of disruption being moments of opportunity. I come from Chicago. Anyone here from Chicago? Chi-town? Yay, 2 people, 3 people, woo! We'll get a deep dish and a hot dog with no ketchup after this. But I think about the Chicago fire. And something really interesting that people don't know about the Chicago fire is it's the reason that we call Chicago the second city. Not because it's second to New York, but because a second city was built on the ashes of the first. And that second city was built with the knowledge, the foresight, and opportunity that the time of that great disruption happened. So rather than rebuilding the exact city that was so impacted by the disruption, they said, wait, we have an opportunity to have a blank slate and to create something better. What can we do? How can we learn? How can we make a moment of opportunity from this moment of disruption? We're in a huge moment of opportunity right now. Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, says that we are in the 4th industrial revolution, and that this is happening at a much faster acceleration and velocity than any of the other past 3 industrial revolutions, with this convergence of AI and technology and social media and connectivity. But it's happening so fast that people are saying, yeah, okay, thanks, Klaus. But we are already in the 5th industrial revolution. And the thing I'm so excited about this new conversation that people are having about the 5th industrial revolution is that it is recentering humanity. Now, to continue in my theme of quoting my fellow esteemed panelist here, Daniel said, and forgive me if I misquote you to you, I believe I heard you say, technology can connect us, but only people can unite us. And that is exactly what the 5th industrial revolution is all about. It's about finding where the intersection of humanity and social good meets powerful technology. AI is both exciting and terrifying. It can unleash great things if used thoughtfully. And I think that with the people in this room, you can give us the thought, the foresight, and intentionality on how to use that power, how to focus it to meet the needs, to address the injustices, the challenges, the hardships that are happening and that many of us have named already in this room today. We have an opportunity to democratize all of your voices and so much more access. A huge part of my role as the Global Head of Education Impact is to think about how are we ensuring at Google that the technology we're building and the technology we're providing young people is built for good and used for good and creating the impact we hope it will. And so I think that there's 2 buckets of impact that I'm really excited about when it comes to democratization with all of your leadership and potential in this space. The democratization of information and upskilling, and the democratization of voice and platform. I think there's a lot more technology can do, but I think that I only have 3 more minutes to talk, so that's what we're gonna talk about now. So first of all, information and upskilling. I remember when I was a young person, which I wanna believe was not too long ago, I consider myself youth adjacent, so I am also part of this youth convening, that I had to go to the library. There was no Google search. I think I was around right when Ask Jeeves came around. I don't know if any of you have heard of Jeeves. He's not there anymore. I think he might work at Google. But I couldn't just Google something. I also didn't have the resources to have an encyclopedia set in my house. The real rich kids in my community had something called an encyclopedia, not Wikipedia, like physical books, each for the letter of the alphabet. World Book or Encyclopedia Britannica. I did not have that in my house. And so when I wanted to know the answer to something, I had to go to the library. And I didn't have a car, and it was a 30-minute bike ride to get to the library. So every time I wanted to know something, I had to hop on a bike in Central Florida. Spoiler alert, it's very hot there. And bike to the library to get an answer. And even then, the answers were limited. And you can probably get where I'm going with this. Now we have Google, we have Gemini, you can ask what seems like infinite information. But what's more, you can be upskilled. During the pandemic, so many people were learning how to bake sourdough bread and crochet. I learned neither. I watched a lot of unboxing videos of toys with my 3-year-old. But you can also learn how to get that next skill, how to code, how to create an app. I've heard so many of you have created digital platforms, Daphne included. How many of you have created an app or a website in this room? How many of you watched a YouTube video to learn how to do something new in the past year? In the past day. So we're all learning, we're lifelong learners. Even if you are done with formal education, we're constantly learning, and that is something that is new and exciting in this new industrial revolution. But not only now do we have access to infinite information and upskilling, that is, if you have a device and internet connection, which I know is not necessarily the norm for everyone, something that anyone who has those two can connect to, you can also create. Now, when we're building Gemini, the AI platform from Google, we're building it on learning science principles. We have something called LearnLM, which is built on learning pedagogies, which means that there are 5 principles that Gemini operates on when you ask it questions. It wants to inspire active learning, so you stay curious. It wants to manage cognitive load, so you don't get frustrated and throw your Chromebook out the window when you're talking to it. It wants to deepen your metacognition so you know why you're thinking about something. It wants to stimulate your curiosity. Does anyone ever get on YouTube and then just like click the next video, and then you went on YouTube to watch a video about cats and others, and now you're like watching a video about like black holes and you don't know how you got there? Because it stimulated your curiosity. You're welcome, and also I'm sorry. And finally, it wants to adapt to the learner. It wants to learn better how you learn and why. And so as you're digging into this and the upskilling, it's also going to give you opportunities to create. So at a certain point in learning now with Gemini and with AI, not only is it going to say, okay, now you know more about this topic, it's going to say, what do you want to do with that knowledge? Do you want to create an app? Oh, you don't know how to code? That's cool. Hey, don't worry about it. You can use Gemini Canvas to say, create an app that helps me find all daycares in a 30-mile radius of my house that are open from this date to this date, cost this much money, and will take both my 3-year-old Nora and my 6-year-old Lucy. 30 seconds later, I created an app. So this is a true story. I am a parent. I spent a long time on Gemini researching how to find summer camps for my kids. I couldn't figure it out. Gemini's like, do you want to just make an app for it? I was like, why not? I did. I put it on social media, and now I'm the hero of North Chicago. Not really, but I think I am. Now, as we're creating, how are we sharing it? Social media. How many of you are on social media? Instagram, TikTok, all the things, YouTube. I am youth adjacent, so there's probably a social media I haven't heard of that you're using. But when you're creating these apps, when you're creating these websites, how do you elevate that and get more people, more users on it? Now you don't have to just paper flyers on a corkboard. You can reach millions and billions of people through the internet, through your voice. And the thing about this is that it's both, again, exciting and terrifying, because now anyone can create, anyone can reach millions of people. My daughters are obsessed with Pixar movies, and we just watched the movie Ratatouille, and in it, a little rat says, anyone can cook. 3 people laughed, so 3 people saw it over here. Anyone can create. The thing that I am hopeful about that is that you are all here today speaking about the SDGs of the UN, talking about building on a foundation and platform of humanity, of collective cooperation, of multilateral cooperation and partnership, and using our powers for good. So as technology companies like mine create these technologies to amplify your voices, give you more reach, give you infinite power and accessibility, what will you do with it? How will you use it for good? And how will you take action? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Jenny Majera. Your insights were a powerful reminder of the role of technology in our world today and really using your powers for good. Finding opportunity when you feel like there's just a lot of disruption and being able to make the best of that moment. So thank you for reminding us of that. And to continue on that train of quoting Daphne and referring back to her speech, we have a comment from one of our audience members, Abhishek Dewari. He says, a ballot is like a collective thought of democracy, gathered together to keep democracy alive. Love and strength to you. Thank you, Abhishek, and thank you, Daphne, again. Okay, so now we're going to be moving to the next part of our session today. First, I want to thank all of the speakers that joined us today. Request your excellencies to also just take a seat in the audience. And our next set of speakers will be joining the dais. Daphne, you can remain with us for the next panel, but thank you again for joining us. Okay, so we will now be moving into the second segment of this event, where you will hear from distinguished young leaders on how they're actively working on the ground through partnerships and technology to make a difference we need to see in this world. For this, I would like to call upon Mr. Ali Mustafa from AFS. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Yumna. Please welcome our youth speakers to the floor in your round of applause. Youth speakers, please make to the floor by your names. While we get ready for the panel, you can see a QR code on the screen. If you see that, feel free to make any comment, ask questions, make sure you mention your name and country where you're from. We will open the floor in the end to take questions from you as well. So make sure that you have your questions ready whenever we open the floor for that. Excellencies, distinguished panelists, friends, fellow young leaders, good afternoon. Right now, you are in a room where history has been made. And when you return to your communities, you will step into spaces where change is being made because you are the leaders who will make it so. As youth, you have a responsibility to lead, to innovate, and to bring fresh ideas into spaces like this, in this very room today at the United Nations. And our responsibility doesn't end here. As youth, we must also inform the generations that come before us, showing them how change is possible, how innovation can happen, and how we intend to do it. We are not just future leaders, we are leaders now. Today, I want to acknowledge you. You are here right now. Out of all the people in the vast world, you are here. That goes for those of us watching from home or school or in your village. You are here with us because the UN is for the people and UN is for youth. The theme of this panel, based on localization of SDGs, partnerships, and technology, is not abstract for us. It's urgent, it's personal, and it is valid. Localization means recognizing that the global goals only matter if they meet people where they are, in their languages, in their cultures, in their infrastructure and realities. It means shifting from top-down mandate to bottom-up action, and youth are doing this every day. Co-designing climate policies with mayors, creating access to healthcare in rural districts, advocating for education in refugee settlements, and making sure no one is left behind. Partnerships is not just about governments and donors, it is about building unlikely coalitions. Between youth and elders, between local communities and international institutions, between public policy and private innovation. And then there is technology. It can either deepen the digital divide or unlock radical inclusion. We as youth are not just digital natives, we are digital architects. We are designing the apps, the platforms, the tools that are localizing education, healthcare, livelihoods, and accountability. We are turning SDG theory into community-level tech solutions, scalable, inclusive, and youth-led. And yet, how many times in our lives we have been told no? How many doors have been shut on our dreams, on our identities, on our communities? And yet, we are here, and you all are here. Change is not part-time, it's not flashy, it's not a performance. Change is quiet, it's consistent, often thankless, and always necessary. And while we speak here today, let us not forget those who are doing work where they are. The grassroots innovators, the frontline organizers, the youth leaders who didn't have the means to be here. We acknowledge you, and we are here with you. You're already doing the work without the stage, without the applause, without waiting to be seen. You are the leaders of this generation. For those of us who have a platform, we have a responsibility to use technology and partnership not to amplify ourselves, but to elevate the work, to spread these best solutions and carry out community voices forward. And when we talk about partnerships, let us stop assuming that they must start with money. Too often, the first question is, where is the funding? But what if we instead ask, what do you already have? Partnerships is about pooling assets, not just budgets. It's about co-creating from what we already hold in our hands, ideas, networks, commitments, and turning that into local transformation. So, I invite you, listen closely, reflect deeply, engage openly, because the people in this room are not just talking about the change. We are the change, you are the change. We are not just inheriting global challenges, we are reimagining global systems. So I acknowledge you all. Take this moment with you, carry the power of this room back to your community, make history where you are by creating change where you are. Thank you. And now let me introduce our distinguished panel to you. Who are the young people themselves, who all of them, I'm proud to say, come from the grassroots activism, and they actually know what were the essence of the things that I was just talking about. First, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Dana Alanze to briefly introduce herself and give the opening statement on the panel.
Thank you, Ali. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. While drafting my statement, I found myself wondering and reflecting on the lived reality of our youth today. Audience, can you please help me by raising your tablets or your phones, please? The access you have to those is a powerful privilege. Inclusion through technology is a privilege. In crisis and conflict-affected areas, youth who do have access to technology do not take that privilege lightly. For them, using technology is a lifeline to organize, to educate, to advocate, and to survive. In Gaza, Palestinians have been under a suffocating siege, and the situation has now gone beyond crisis. According to UNICEF, more than 18,000 children have been killed in Gaza over the last 22 months, making it one of the deadliest places in the world to be a child. More than 65,000 children are suffering from acute malnutrition, and at least 94 have already died from starvation, all while life-saving aid continues to be blocked. In other conflict-affected settings, girls are denied access to education. Women are removed from public life, and youth are locked out of the digital economy entirely. This is not a failure of systems, ladies and gentlemen. It is the result of deliberate inaction and a global tolerance, unfortunately, for injustice that continues to cost lives. If we are serious about youth advancing multilateral cooperation, then justice must be treated as a foundational obligation, not a secondary goal. Young people in crisis settings must be recognized not only as recipients of aid, but as equal partners in shaping solutions grounded in their lived realities. This demands that the international community place the resolution of conflict and the dismantling of systemic injustices at the core of its commitments. True multilateral cooperation is measured by who it reaches, whose voices it centers, and whether it delivers change where it is needed the most. The displaced, the disconnected, and those abandoned or failed by our systems are not an afterthought. They are the real test of whether our cooperation and humanitarian values, unfortunately, mean anything at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Next, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Daphne Fries.
Hi, everyone, again. And Donna, thank you for so poignantly sharing how much of a privilege we have to just have these little boxes with us that hold the world, really. One thing that I really wanted to talk about is how are young people utilizing the power of social media to change the world? And when I got started in this advocacy space almost 9 years ago now, one of the first things I did was follow activists and other young people who were already doing the work. How could I learn from them? I would spend hours obsessively scrolling through their feeds trying to figure out what is the key to being an organizer? What is the key to being an activist? How do you get an audience to listen to what you have to say? And quickly I realized that so much of being a youth organizer in this space today, in 2025, is turning yourself into a brand. And through that path, I realized that it's really easy to lose yourself in that. What is your purpose? Who is the community that you serve? Where do you come from, and what do you stand for? It's really easy to lose your way as you get wrapped up in algorithms and numbers and how many followers and people that you have listening to your voice. And something that I've had to do is take back my own power and the narratives within technology and in social media. I think what's really powerful, as we talked about in the last conversation, we're in the 5th industrial revolution. But how can we make technology human instead of technology taking the humanity from us? And one of the ways I've learned to do this is by using technology as a human megaphone. I often say that my job being in these spaces and talking about the work that I do is to be a human megaphone for my community, to let the stories of my community and my people and where I come from flow through me in spaces like these that we never thought we'd be able to occupy. My family emigrated from the Dominican Republic in 1940, escaping a dictator and escaping persecution to come here for the opportunity of a better life. And all these years later, I don't think my family could have ever imagined that one of their own would be sitting in a hole like this. But it's through the power of their voices and their story that I know I can carry their voices with me to do the important work. And I think that that's what's really powerful about social media and what's powerful about technology. It allows us to hold our legacies and allows us to take control of what we want our legacies to be. And I share this story because it makes me think about just a few weeks ago, as Donna very pointedly showed us, the devastations that are happening in Gaza and all around the world in many countries. But specifically, this makes me think about the Madeleine flotilla that tried to create a humanitarian corridor and let aid into Gaza just a few weeks ago. A few of my friends were on that flotilla. And it was a very stressful time as we waited their eventual interception as they reached the shores of Gaza. And I thought to myself that the stress and the anxiety and the tears and the anguish that I feel was only a fraction of a millisecond, of a tiny millimeter of the pain and suffering that the people of Gaza must have been feeling over nearly 2 years. But what was powerful about that is we asked ourselves in this moment, how can we take back the narrative? Unfortunately, much of the rhetoric that was crafted around this flotilla really created a form of distraction around why this flotilla was actually doing what it needed to do, to bring aid to people who have been suffering for so long. But what my friends and what so many other young people did all around the world is we led one of the most powerful social media campaigns to help bring the activists on the Madeleine back to safety. And what was really powerful about that is one of the campaigns that I helped to lead, in under 24 hours, we reached 1.8 million people around the world. And I've been using social media since the very beginning of my organizing, and I'm very, very fortunate to have over 10,000 people following my work. But this was the largest piece of content that I've ever put out there. And what was really powerful about the comments underneath this post was so many people from all over the world said, I've been feeling so hopeless about what's happening in Gaza. But together, through collective action of raising our voices and demanding for a future that we all see as just, we were able to bring people home and have them be safe. And this reminded me that this is what the power of technology can do. It can allow us to break through what the status quo is and allows us to define what the status quo is. Where a lot of times in international diplomacy, we are held by accords, we are held by treaties, we are held by words that should be binding contracts, but so often are left with loopholes that cause pain and suffering. And it's up to us, the generation that is wielding this technology, to say, we are going to strengthen those contracts. We are going to ratify these human rights that we so desperately need to make sure that not only our generation, but the generations after us never have to carry the weight of the world as this generation has before. I think what is also so powerful about technology is that it reminds me that I'm not alone in this fight. There are many times, even today, I haven't slept in 36 hours. I'm in grad school and doing grad school things that I don't recommend to be doing at the same time. And during this, I was getting ready this morning, and I realized that I wrote half of my speech in Spanish, and I was like, how did I do that? And I quickly went and had to rewrite that section in English. And my friend was helping me translate it because I had literally no brain capacity to think about how to translate this section of my speech. And I thought to myself, this is the power of community. When one of us falters, there's another one there to pick us up and to help us be strong. And what's even more powerful is that the power of technology vanishes global borders and allows us to be the most globalized generation to date, where we aren't defined by our nationalities and the languages we speak, but we're defined by our hearts and our minds and our willingness to create a better world. And because of this, my friend was all the way in the Philippines helping me translate my speech just a few hours before today. And it made me think, a question that I get a lot as a youth organizer in spaces like this is, what gives you hope? And it's honestly one of the most annoying questions, because I like to turn it around and say, well, why can't you be your own hope? Why do we, as this young generation, have to be the sort of absolute embodiment of what hope is? But in moments of connection across oceans and across countries, I'm reminded that hope lies in community, lies in radical rest and recovery, and learning when to ask for help, learning to use the resources that we have, as Dana so greatly showed us, in this little box of ours, to change the world. So it's easy to be discouraged. It's easy to be sort of confused about the state of the world, where every day we wake up and we turn on the news and it's like a dumpster fire out there. And you're like, what timeline is this? What is happening? But I assure you that through the power of community and the power of using your voice, change is possible. And one thing that I want to leave you with is that your lived experience is your expertise. As young people here in the halls of the UN, many of us have the misconceptions that we need certain degrees behind our name, certain years and levels of accolades and expertise. But really, all you need is your story, your lived true ideology, your identity, the multifaceted nature of it to lead change. Because it is through that multifaceted identity that allows us to pierce the veil of business as usual. Because business as usual is not getting anything done. Otherwise, the UN wouldn't be 80 years old and still trying to achieve the SDGs. And I want you to hold that true and firm, because no one can co-opt your story unless you let them.
Thank you. Next, I would like to pass the floor to Mr. Shah Chaudhry.
Thank you, Ali. Greetings, Excellencies, delegates, and changemakers. My name is Shah, and I'm a humble next-generation humanitarian from Bangladesh. Let's be straightforward. The world is going through a tough time this moment, socially, economically, politically, and environmentally. We're at a very critical point where a big question mark hangs over all our heads. Are we truly optimistic about the future of our world? The answer to this question ultimately lies in our own hands, the hands of young people across the globe. But it sounds quite impossible given the complicated and challenging state the world is at today. My statement comes at an emotional time for me and the young people of my nation, Bangladesh. Exactly a year ago, our young people stood up against a government that took advantage of us in every way possible, standing up for the right of our people and the future of our nation. It seemed an impossible task, given that there were only two options: either succeed in our movement or die at the hands of the powerful. In a classic David versus Goliath scenario, against bullets, media propaganda, political threats, and strong arming, we only had two things at our disposal: this and each other. 1 became 10, 10 became 100, and 100 became 1,000. And the numbers kept growing on the streets. Unity so strong, which ultimately forced the government to flee from its throne. Today, Amidst all challenges we face, Bangladesh can dream again because young people gave it a chance that was once thought impossible. If young people from a South Asian nation, which many not know of, can create such an example, what is stopping us as a global community from doing the same? Today, technology has given us the power to connect, the potential to grow, and the opportunity to make the impossible possible. Look to your left, look to your right. If you feel alone and hopeless, remember, 700 of us are sitting here today because we all share the same vision of a better world. We are not alone, and if we share with each other and help each other, the change we want can start taking place today, right from this room we are all in. Do you feel frustrated, angry, anxious? Good. Use it as a fuel for your voice and action, because our ideas, our voices, and our actions today will overcome the failures of yesterday to define a better tomorrow. If we are to adopt the future of this world, then we must act now, act together to shape the future that we are meant to inherit. And with hope and unity, we will build a world that each of us have truly dreamed of. We are all in this together, so let's fight for our world and our future together. Thank you.
Thank you, Shah. Next, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Ilan Enverga. Ilan, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Ali. Good afternoon, fellow changemakers. How is everyone feeling? We love the energy still there, but really how amazing is it to be part of this generation that's going to lead us to a better future. My name, first of all, is Ilan Enverga. I'm from Lucena City in the Philippines, and today I hope to offer a wake-up call. Humanity is at a crossroads. We're at a point in history that will define the next decades and the next centuries and beyond. The road we take will be decided by our collective values. We face crises like climate, conflict, inequality, and more crises, but if you step back, you'll realize our overall challenge is a moral crisis. At the root of so many problems is the normalizing of apathy, disconnection, and greed. And this moral crisis is tied to the education crisis. Across the world, schools are underfunded, millions of children are out of school and do not have access to digital infrastructure, and teachers are overworked and undervalued. By deprioritizing education, we have deprioritized the very systems that shape society's values, which has led to this moral crisis. If education is where we learn who we are, how we treat others, and how we care for the planet, then neglecting education means failing entire societies. And that's why I've devoted my work to transforming education, so it doesn't just teach facts, but builds values and empowers youth for the SDGs. At my nonprofit, Global Changemaker Schools, we mentor schools worldwide to become hubs for young changemakers, equipping educators in sustainable development and global citizenship, and empowering youth and children to take action for the SDGs. This paradigm shift is only possible with partnerships. We train teachers to work with governments, businesses, and grassroots groups, and this is how we address our biggest crisis, the moral crisis, by breaking silos, reconnecting sectors, and normalizing empathy and courage. Young people today, all of you in this room included, are challenging broken systems and leading the political, corporate, and societal change that many current leaders still avoid. Isn't it ironic that young people must often tell the adults in power to grow up, but we do it because we see the world not only as it is, but as it could be. Our generation must be the one to build bridges, not walls. So let's make sure to build as many bridges as we can today, tomorrow, and beyond, and I, for one, look forward to connecting and working with all of you for our shared goals. I believe in all of us because we are the most interconnected, most morally awake, and most motivated generation in history. And where does this agency come from? I believe it comes from the love we've been privileged to have received. For me, it's the love of my mom and family, the guidance of my teachers, and the inspiration of change makers from the Philippines and around the world, people like you. When things get tough, remember from where and from whom you gain the inspiration to imagine a better future. And let their love fuel your mission. History has its eyes on you, and we cannot be bystanders at this critical point in our history. So, if I may, I invite everyone to speak up and to repeat after me. We know the problems. With more energy, everyone say, we know our power. Now is the time. Now look to the person beside you and say, let's do this together. And lastly, look to someone else, give them a high five and say, we got this. Thank you, everyone. Happy International Youth Day.
Thank you, Ilan. Next and lastly, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Yugratna Srivastava.
Thank you. Thank you, Ali. I'm Yugratna, and I'm one of the two organizing partners for the Major Group for Children and Youth, and very, very happy to speak with you all today. I'm generally never on panels. It's the first one, although being in the organizing team of the ECOSOC Youth Forum, we were very happy to host several of you just in the other room today in trusteeship chamber earlier this year, and now you're all here today in the ECOSOC chamber. So I want to start by saying that we are today here on the Turtle Island, which is the land of the Lenape people, and we call for land back, right back, youth back. The Major Group for Children and Youth serves as a designated self-led youth constituencies that engages young people in multiple UN processes ranging from climate change, humanitarian action, and human rights and migration. And today there are three messages that I want to share. So the first one is that member states need to ensure full and complete implementation of 2030 agenda, which means no backsliding on SDGs. In a language that perhaps will resonate with certain groups, I want to outline that SDGs continue to be pro-farmer, pro-jobs, pro-market, and pro-economic growth. Second, I want to highlight a critical gap. Since the start of this year, youth organizations worldwide have been leading multiple UN processes and forums, including the Youth Forum, which was organized earlier this year under the auspices of ECOSOC, regional forums, conferences of youth, and much more. Youth are active both at the global level and grassroots level, yet often groups with more access, and many not even youth-led, are the ones that are speaking for children and youth, and in this case, often these days for future generations. Let us be clear, the discourse of rights holders, especially children and youth, women and indigenous peoples, must be led by them without co-option from groups that do not represent them. Third, I want to point out that as UN at 80 process unfolds, UN at 80 reforms must build on the promise of UN at 75, strengthening and not curbing UN's work on youth issues. 5 years ago, when UN at 75 took place, it was marked as a moment of enhanced multilateralism and new guidance, and we cannot just throw that away 5 years later. That is not a hope that you give to this generation. Finally, I want to conclude with two clear demands that were laid out in the Voices of Youth report earlier this year, prepared by many young people on the theme of technology and partnership. There is a need to institutionalize formal youth participation in global and national science technology governance, which includes UN Secretary General's high-level body on AI, the 10-member group on TFM, a youth track for the Global Digital Compact, and much more. Finally, sustainable development requires equitable distribution of power and resources. We call upon the UN system to establish a multilateral legal framework that addresses unsustainable and illegitimate debt, including extensive debt cancellation and debt repudiation. Children and youth of today and the generation of today should not be bearing consequences of that debt. Right now, 600 million youth live in conflict-affected areas or fragile areas. We're talking about development and sustainability and commemorating a Youth Day while armed conflicts are tearing our world apart, stripping young people of their basic rights. Today, once again, I reiterate this call on behalf of the Major Group for Children and Youth for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in all armed conflicts globally. Children and youth cannot, and I repeat, cannot continue to be mass casualties of the military-industrial complex, which frankly has no end. Thank you.
Thank you, Yugratna. So we will move towards the Q&A for this panel, and which is also our favorite part, because I will ask some questions from the panelists, and you will also get a chance to ask questions. So how are we going to do this? First, I'm going to ask questions from them. Meanwhile, prepare your questions if you have any. Keep it short, keep it to the questions, not statements. Questions short, and when you will raise your hand, I will choose you, select you, and then you will have to, once you're selected, you will have to press the button in front of you, and you have to wait for a few seconds to turn your mic red, just like mine, and then you will be allowed to ask the questions. So prepare for yourself, because we will go back and forth. First round will be from me, and I would like to ask my first question from Dana. Dana, I have a question for you. Can you share grassroots initiative that successfully advanced one or more SDGs in your country or region?
Thank you, Ali. So the Education Above All Foundation's mission focuses on reaching the most vulnerable and marginalized populations with access to education and employment opportunities. Through the first phase of our Rebuilding Hope project in partnership with UNFPA, over 3,000 young people were mobilized across Gaza to lead more than 400 community-led grassroots initiatives. These youth provided support in education, psychosocial care, food distribution, shelter, and dignity kits for women and girls. Their efforts reached over 100,000 people, not through top-down aid systems, but through local leadership, skill, and what we've been talking about today, solidarity. In Afghanistan, where girls are systematically excluded from education, we launched the Afghan Girls Thrive project in partnership with Coursera. It offers 120,000 Afghan women access to online learning with over 2,000 courses translated into Dari and Pashto, enabling them to continue learning in the face of systemic exclusion. So these initiatives advance multiple sustainable development goals, from quality education and gender equality to decent work and economic opportunity. But most importantly, they demonstrate how targeted, community-based projects can deliver measurable outcomes even in highly restricted or fragile environments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much. It's really important that you mentioned about the local leadership, and that's what localization of SDGs is about, and that's what I think we should focus if you're looking forward to achieve the SDGs. Thank you for your answer. Next, I would like to ask a question from Daphne about how does your work reflect the role of youth in advancing the multilateral cooperation?
Thank you so much for that question. I think when I began doing my work at the UN, you hear about the types of discussions that happen in these halls and how the decisions in these halls change the world. And I didn't really understand where my voice fit into that discussion, and sometimes I still don't. And but something that really helped me sort of have this moment where I realized that my voice did have an impact makes me think of 2 years ago at COP28 in Dubai. COP is a race of 2 weeks where you're negotiating for the stake in the health of our planet, and in the final outcomes, we really pushed to have disabled people be part of that final text. And in, well, now 30 years, but at that time, 28 years, disabled people had never been included in the final text of COP. In terms of being on the front lines of the climate crisis, being solutionists of the climate crisis, knowing how to adapt and how to be resilient in our communities. And something that I was able to help work on is, by the time the COP28 final decision came out, the phrase "people with disabilities" was included in the text twice for the first time ever. And seeing those words in the final text of COP really helped me understand that as young people working in the system of the UN, we really have the ability to be a bridge. We get to understand the inner workings of international diplomacy in these halls, but then we get to go back to our communities and really hear and understand their struggles, their needs, and their wants. And similarly to how we heard earlier in these discussions, UN programs are not just programs with titles and, doing missions in other countries. They are making real impacts. And this is something that my work has really shown me, where I've been able to go into my community, hear their issues, come back into conversations here at the UN and say, I know you have statistics about what you think is happening in certain communities, but here is what's actually happening directly from the front line in real time, where maybe our data and statistics haven't caught up, but I can tell you real time what the people in my community need and what they want. And it's been a really powerful journey to be able to be that bridge, to be that unifier. And we talk a lot about unity here, but it's not just amongst ourselves, but it's about bringing our home communities and our home identities and ideologies into spaces like this and building the bridges that can connect them, so that when we are coming up with treaties and accords, they're actually reflecting our communities and who they really are and what they really need.
Thank you. Thank you, Daphne. We have been all witness of the process that you mentioned about the COP and the multilateral system, how it actually works and how young people can actually make a change. I think I would have to reflect on the statement of Yugratna when she mentioned about how it needs to be done, it's how it needs to be changed, and how it needs to be more inclusive. We will talk more about it. Before we do that, I have a question from Shah about what role technology has played in amplifying your initiatives and connecting across borders.
Well, being from Bangladesh, the challenges of extreme poverty were exposed to me from a very young age. Seeing the hardship of my people every single day frustrated me, and I turned that frustration and impatience into action. At the age of 17, almost 12 years ago, I decided to start this organization called Footsteps as a platform to help my people overcome the challenges of extreme poverty. I had no funding, no experience, no network, but a social media account. What started out as a Facebook campaign to aid people with warm clothing during winter has now turned into a movement which has empowered over 700,000 people graduate from extreme poverty in Bangladesh. The role of technology has been immense in our journey, connecting our story of impact in the local level with a global audience, mobilizing resources over a decade, which has valued the impact of Footsteps at $261 million today. Without technology, a platform like Footsteps wouldn't have existed today, and I wouldn't be here sharing our story at the UNHQ today as well. So yeah.
That's what we call the power of social media, I guess, and also the technology as it's evolving. My next question is from Ilan, and I would like to ask, how can youth forge effective partnerships with governments, international organizations, and civil society to solve global challenges?
Thanks, Ali. As we all know, intergenerational partnerships are absolutely necessary to solve our global challenges, and I'm happy to give a concrete example. The work of bringing youth into decision-making spaces for the education sector is the top mandate of the SDG 4 Youth and Student Network, of which I'm a part of. And connected to this network with UNESCO's Global Education Cooperation Mechanism, I'm also honored to have been elected as the youth representative on the SDG 4 High-Level Steering Committee. and that being the highest body for international coordination for education, it is indeed a good sign and a show of progress that despite this committee being primarily made up of government ministers, youth and students literally have a seat at the table. And as such, I've seen firsthand the difference between tokenism and real partnership with governments, with international organizations, and with civil society. This structure of governance is what we need more of everywhere, and where youth can actually co-lead and help make decisions and results more long-term and sustainable. This may be one example out of a few examples, but that's why this International Youth Day, the SDG 4 Youth and Student Network, is launching with UNESCO headquarters in Paris, an exciting and really honestly different kind of campaign for mainstreaming intergenerational partnership and co-leadership. And we're calling this hashtag Leading SDG 4 Youth. This is a new kind of campaign to celebrate and amplify the champions, the entities that already exist, that are already getting youth engagement right, and to inspire other governments, private sectors, entities, civil society to follow the same suit. And likewise, we're really proud to support the work of the Global Education Monitoring Report, or GEM report, who have already pointed out the major gap in global data on youth engagement. That's why the GEM report is developing the first ever indicator measuring meaningful youth and student participation in education legislation and policymaking. If you'd like to get involved, please reach out to GEM report. And together, we hope to scale this really this unstoppable movement of youth to be guaranteed a seat at the table, because as we all know, what is not measured will never be addressed, and what is not easily recognized will never become mainstream. So measure and mainstream, these are key strategies for us as a generation to open more doors for fellow youth. So we really have to be this generation that strives and champions equal partnership. And this new campaign, hashtag Leading SDG 4 Youth, is just the beginning, and we invite you all to be part of this exciting new movement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ilan. That's a very important thing that you mentioned multiple times about having seat at the table. And we have been talking about it, and MGCY is here. They can also reflect on what I'm about to say. We have been talking about seats at the table. There were many tables previously where there was no seat. So what we did, that we got our own seat. We just brought our own seat to that table and made that table a youth table now. So now we do have seats at many tables. Congratulations on your appointment. Next, I would like to ask Yogratna a very important question on how can technology and partnership help bridge the gap between SDG and community level implementation.
Thank you, Ali. And that's a great question, and I would really begin by outlining that there is no sustainable development without full and complete engagement and participation of rights holders, including children and youth, women, and indigenous people. I would like to highlight a few examples of what some of the youth constituencies and networks, including groups like SDG 4 Youth Network, have been doing in really bridging that gap between the global level policymaking and community level implementation. If you look at the humanitarian and resilience cluster work of the UN, a group called the Migration Youth Children and Platform, which is the migration constituency, has done excellent work through programs such as Young People on the Move, which is started as a standalone program, fully run by young people, to now being housed within UNICEF as their programmatic program and jointly implemented by and with youth. In the environmental cluster, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the great work being done by youth groups that organize for climate COPs, including local and regional conferences of youth, more than 100 of which took place last year. On a more programmatic level, last year, UNCCD Youth Strategy, which is the Convention on Combating Desertification, on land rights and drought and all of those topics, they developed a UNCCD Youth Strategy, which was actually co-drafted by the Secretariat and the youth groups, which is the UNCCD Youth Caucus, making it one of the very few strategies in the UN system that are actually co-written by young people themselves, and it's an interesting model for other UN agencies to learn and develop from, including a UN Youth Strategy, which involves young people quite a lot in implementation and design and monitoring. At the same time, there is more that needs to be done to strengthen how youth from national level are engaged in that process. On the social and economic side of the UN's work, youth groups have been in the front lines of actively countering anti-rights agenda in processes like Commission on Population and Development and Commission on Status of Women by groups such as ICPD Youth Platform and the youth group that organizes CSW Youth Forum. They have been instrumental voices in actually calling out a number of times when past agreements are proposed to be discarded on bodily autonomy, sexual and reproductive health and rights of young women and girls. And finally, I would want to mention ECOSOC Youth Forum itself. I don't know, did some of you participate at the Youth Forum earlier this year? That's another big example of broad youth-led universal space for member states, UN agencies, and youth organizations. And as we plan the Youth Forum 2026, we call upon member states to ensure highest level of ministerial participation at all upcoming youth forums, and to also support a youth forum for the UNGA third committee that will take place in October, the third committee, not the forum. Finally, at the national level, there are many ways partnerships can help, including through UN resident coordinators and country team that can actively support youth priorities and safeguarding of young human rights defenders that are often under threat, whether that's from different types of actors on the national level. A good models on this exist. For example, Morocco's latest NDC integrated young people in its design and subsequent implementation in a very, very deep and holistic way if you actually read about it. However, gaps remain. We are seeing an increasing trend of hand-picked advisory boards to certain UN country teams, which leave behind critical voices. This is not a time for picking young people that speak the agenda of the governments. We need all forms of youth organizations and groups, those that are speaking and aligned with what the government is saying, and those that are also giving constructive suggestions and feedback to what leading government of a country is saying. A structure that is not led and managed by children and youth or young people themselves cannot truly represent or reflect them. So I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to the second round of Q&A, I would like to open the floor for the youth delegates and participants here, so I can take questions. I see 1, 2, 3, and 4. And Khalid, of course. How can I forget him? I'll go first with you. So please click on the mic when it becomes red. Give it a few seconds for our colleagues in the technical room to focus on you.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Blanca Mujica. I am from Peru, from the Peruvian Amazon. My question is to Ilan. How can we design capacity building programs that equip young leaders with the technical, financial, and organizational skills need to sustain their projects beyond initiative, enthusiasm, or short-term funding? Thank you.
Click, wait for it to turn red. Click one time.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I am Alice. I'm from Guatemala. And my question goes for any of the girls who are there. And I would like to ask, which has been the biggest challenge you have to face or you have faced by being there? I know that being a woman is mostly one of our biggest challenges in this society, but also being, for example, a Latina in America or having different capacities or abilities is also something against us. So I would like to know which has been your greatest challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. First, third, you.
So, hello everyone. My name is Azzam Al-Awadi from Bahrain.
Can you get closer to the mic?
Closer? Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Azzam from Bahrain. And my question is to any speaker who could answer this question to me. I'm a small-time micro-influencer, and I'm trying to figure out how can I balance entertainment and activism, and how do I know when to post which, and how, because not everyone will watch all my content and be engaged if it's always activism. So I want to balance both and get the people engaged more often. So how can I do that?
Thank you. The fourth question, yes, here, please go ahead.
Hey, Daphne. You said when asked what gives you hope in the world, you said, why can't I be my own hope? And thank God in my home country, Saudi Arabia, we're given a lot of opportunities to lead the change, to be the hope. But in a lot of countries, that's not the case. So what's your advice to people that don't have those resources or those opportunities given to them? And how can they be their own hope?
Thank you. Khalid?
Thank you, Ali. My name is Khalid. I'm from Syria. I'm working with a non-profit organization called Mulham Volunteering Team. So I just like a small or short sentence. We know and believe that the power of technology is more than what we think, even for a humanitarian crisis. Like, for example, in our team in 2022, we launched a campaign to build actually 3,000 apartments. So we raised $3 million in 72 hours using technology to build, as I said, 3,000 apartments for 3,000 ITPs family in Syria. So here's my question to my friend Sean. Any advice to all of us here to how we can use like technology in right way to achieve our goals, even if like a public, I mean, is it like youth, or even if we are working with any nonprofit organization? Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go towards the answers. Let's keep the answers short and to the point so we can go to another couple of rounds for the questions. Ilan.
Thanks, Ali, and thanks for the question as well. I will keep it short, but maybe we can continue talking after because of time. But I will start off by saying that something I've discovered with a lot of this movement of bringing young people and giving them a seat at the decision-making table is while there are now new spaces for young people and youth and students to engage in these processes, especially high-level ones, I have observed firsthand that a lot of young people don't have the same capacities and the same skill sets and the same expertise that that exist with those around the table. And as a result, there is that inequality, there is that lack of participation, not because there's a lacking seat, but because they weren't provided the necessary capacity to engage fully in the processes. So I completely agree with the question, first of all, and it's really important to acknowledge that we simultaneously provide access to young people into these spaces, but also simultaneously provide the capacity building for young people to properly engage. I know a really recent example with FFD4 was a toolkit released by Restless Development that really taught young people how to understand financing at the government level, and it really brought it to the level of young people and made it easier for young people to engage in the process. And to answer your question really quickly, well, I think a lot of us in this room have a lot of experience trying to do a lot with no money and no funds and no budget. Really just that lack of resources, I think, is the story of many young people. And yet we have made a lot happen. And I know a lot of people can share many stories. And maybe just a few concrete answers to your question would be, I mean, start with what you have, where you are, and who you're around. I will reference the amazing process that was done by youth to write and draft and launch the Youth Declaration on Transforming Education in 2022. That was just a beautiful show of what young people can do on their own. And really, we saw a consultation of almost 500,000 young people just through grassroots consultations to draft this really beautiful document that was launched at the United Nations here with the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres. And it was really just, whatever resources you had, if you had one room, if you had a classroom, you would just invite all the young people and we would engage in drafting this paper together. I think it's possible. We've done so much with so little, and we shouldn't have to do this in that way. But I think eventually, as we keep pushing the needle, we'll have the resources and the capacities to actually push further and make it normal for young people to have those capacities. Thank you.
The second question was from the ladies on the panel. Who would like to answer that?
My young Latina. That question hit home for me. Before I proceed to answer your question, I just want to do a quick demonstration. So I'm the Qatar Youth Ambassador since 2018 to the Youth Assembly. But I also want to give a shout out to the Qatar Youth Ambassador of Bahrain, Lulwa, who's also a female. And another shout out to the Saudi Youth Ambassador, who is also Layan, a female as well. In the Middle East, as young Arab women, I think we are very fortunate that despite the barriers we face, we are empowered. And my biggest advice is look around the room. Can I have a raise of hands of all the women in this room? We deserve to be celebrated. Look at this number. We are the majority in this room. I think my biggest advice to any young woman in this room who faces imposter syndrome or faces any form of barriers is let's get out of our own way and look for allies. And we can make it very far in life. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Then I couldn't agree more. I think, Alice, your question, really hit home. I think being a Latina in this space has been one of my greatest superpowers because my culture allows me to stay grounded in a space where you can feel very ungrounded a lot of times. I mean, I've sat right next to the Secretary General and I'm sitting there like, oh my God, it's the Secretary General. Like, that's crazy. And then I'm like, but I'm gonna go eat rice and beans at home and like, it's gonna be so good. Like, that's gonna be amazing. And I think it's like, when I walk into these rooms, I don't walk in by myself. I walk in with the power of my community, the power of my ancestors, the power of my culture, the power of my language. And I've been in rooms where a lot of us here are fortunate to be able to speak English. And there are many rooms where there are Spanish-speaking amazing organizers who don't have that ability. And I can get to be in that room and translate their amazing thoughts and power and action in a way that maybe they wouldn't have been able to if I wasn't there. And very frankly, I think we have seen, over the course of my time at the UN, I have really seen how a lot of the status quo is really what we make it. If we go in the room and sort of expect us to be the minority, then that's what's going to manifest, right? But if we go into the room staking our ground and saying, I'm here and you cannot ignore me, that's the energy and that's the power that you're going to bring. So whenever I'm coming into rooms like this, and I've been on way too many manuals with way too many men, and I'm the only woman, and I'm tired. I'm really tired of it. But I think in that moment, I know that I can use my voice to represent so many other women who are not on the stage with me. But also, what an amazing, powerful privilege to understand and come from a group of people who have been historically and systematically undervalued, and look at what we're doing now, right? That's so powerful. So own who you are, own your culture, and remember, no one can make you feel less than unless you let them, so don't let them. There was another question over here about social media, right? Honestly, I say don't worry so much about that balance. People want to see you and who you are as a person. I think what has helped me share my voice is by sharing all of my voice. If I want to go and eat at a restaurant with my friends and post pictures of my food, that's what I'm gonna do because I'm a real person. And I think there's a misconception that the only thing we do 24 hours a day is protect the world and save the world. And that's not true. Sometimes I'm just in my room watching TV and that's it. And I think the more we allow people to realize that those of us who are doing this work are just people is really important. I also think it's important for the diplomats and the excellencies in this space to realize we deserve our youth back. And the only way that we can hold that accountable is by showing that we still want to have our youth, like we still want to be able to go out and, you know, hang out with our friends and hang out with our family and not have to sort of have this impossible moral compass put on us, right? But the only way that that can really be sort of upheld is by showing that we are multifaceted individuals. So yeah, in the beginning your content might suffer and you're gonna be disappointed because you're like, why is nobody watching my stories about, you know, me doing my activism work? All they care about is, you know, seeing what I'm up to in the rest of my life. But the more you sort of break the barrier of, hey, this is all of me. Some parts of me are doing really cool work and some parts of me are just a normal young person. And that's okay. And the more people realize that, the more they'll come to your platform. So yeah, it's hard in the beginning and it can feel exhausting. And trust me, even all these years later, I still struggle with imposter syndrome. So keep it up and it'll get easier.
Thank you. Not my question to answer, but let me tell you, AFS Youth Assembly team, for a long time, I was the only man in the entire team. They all are sitting right in front of you, the ladies, Yumna, Nikki, and all these wonderful ladies. And now we have Ernest joining our team, the second, become a second male after 4 years. So yeah, we are very much led by young ladies. Another question that was being asked was on the balance between activism and entertainment, because I think a young person asked about it. If anyone would like to answer on that the balance between activism and entertainment, because when he speaks about entertainment in his content, no one really watches. He wants to include some entertainment to it, some disco to the mix of the activism, though I'm personally against it, because if it's activism, it has to be purely activism, and you will get the activists only coming to you, not who are looking for something else. But if anyone else wants to answer that
I can go
question.
for this and then get to like Khalid's question as well. So it is something that I relate to. Currently back home, I have gotten a recent nickname. Apparently, I'm known as the national shit poster. Basically, I post out all my opinions and my work, everything out there. And honestly, when I started out, I did not care about what other people would think. And what happened is people started picking it up. But then social media is something also about luck. Some of my posts, some of my stories have 5 shares, some have 5,000. So you never know which hits. You never know how people's psychology works in. So you do you. And if you want to keep it separate, there's always the close friend section that you can use, right? Technology, getting to Khalid's question right now, technology is something that truly fascinates me on a daily basis. It always has a thing to take you unexpectedly. I'll just share a very recent experience. So every time I used to come to New York, I used to actually go to Jackson Heights to get an affordable SIM. For the first time ever, I'm using an eSIM right now from Airalo, and trust me, this was mind-blowing for me. And why I did it, it was because at first I was a bit scared or did not trust it, because how would an eSIM actually work if there's no SIM installed? But that's the power of technology, going beyond those stereotypes or barriers itself. So the first advice from me would be that you cannot be scared or shy of using technology. You gotta go all Indiana Jones on that. You gotta discover whatever is out there, and you never know how it can help out. And technology is not just social media. You wanna build a presentation, use Canva. Even right now, Canva has a new feature that if you wanna build an app, just write what kind of app you want to build, and it writes the code for you as well. The internet is a vast space. Wow. There's so many things to learn. And imagine this as well, before social media like Facebook came in, I think this was around 2006, 2007. Before social media, every news that we consumed were curated by few people or few organizations around the world. So information was designed in that way. But after social media came in, information somehow became democratized, right? And when information is democratized, that means there's also a lot of information out there. So in terms of your work, you also have to adapt to it. 10 years ago, publishing a documentary, a 10-minute documentary on your work might have worked. But right now, because there's so many information, maybe just shift to like short bite-sized reels, which actually gets the message out. So you cannot be scared, you cannot be shy of technology, and you have to be willing to adapt, because times will keep changing quickly. And if we don't adapt to the changes in technology with not only our work, but also our personal lives, we will be left behind. The world up front is vast, but we gotta seize it, right? And technology is gonna play a big part in that, no questions asked. So yeah.
Thank you. So we will do one last very quick round of questions. Very quick round. I see you, Josephine, and the lady in yellow. And you, ma'am. So just three, and okay, yes, the one from Africa, yes. So four, so I will go one by one. First, you, Josephine, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Josephine Gore, and I'm associate for the Program and Impact team at the International Organization of Youth. I first want to thank all the panelists for sharing your thoughts. It's really insightful during this crucial time. And there's been a lot of discussion about the role that technology can play. And to that point, I was curious about how we can leverage technology and social media to address gaps in education, and specifically to expand our knowledge beyond what is traditionally taught so that we can combat today's challenges. Thank you.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Namaste, Excellencies, leaders, and fellow changemakers. I'm Yumi. I'm from Nepal. In our culture, we are raised with values of humility, hierarchy, and harmony. Humility teaches us not to put ourselves above others, a virtue, but also a challenge when women must learn to claim space unapologetically. Hierarchy teaches us to respect elders, but too often it's used to silence younger voices in decision-making. And harmony teaches us to avoid conflict. But real change sometimes requires uncomfortable truths. My question is for Ms. Yugratna. From your experience with the major group of children and youth, how can ECOSOC processes better how the ECOSOC processes can, better integrate the voices of young women entrepreneurs, just like me, especially from the underrepresented countries, so that their innovations and solutions are not only showcased at the forum, but also it's informed in the national and global policy implementation. Thank you.
Thank you. Please go ahead, ma'am.
I'm Priya Joshi. I am a senior researcher at the Global Education Monitoring Report. Thank you, Ilan, for mentioning our work on understanding meaningful youth engagement in the education sector. We know, and I'm youth adjacent. I think we all know, like globally, the extent to which young people are meaningfully engaged in co-designing, in monitoring, in evaluating what's happening with laws and policies in education or in any sector. It varies tremendously, right? So I think I want to know from Shah and maybe others on the panel, Shah especially because of the moment of opportunity right now in Bangladesh. How is that government-youth dialogue working right now? and what possibilities do you see? Do you see it mostly through technology, or is it more, are more things possible right now in the institutional mechanism sense? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the last question.
Sorry, I had to do it this way. Firstly, I'd like to extend my greetings to everyone on the panel. My name is Tsokfatu Malapo from South Africa. My question is for Daphne. You shared such a beautiful story about box to ballot. My question to you is, when it came to you trying to help the youth have a vote, with the legislations that you have in the United States and the policies, as much as they might be difficult, but they work. But now in a situation in other African countries, for example, Zimbabwe, with the election process that happened, what advice can you give to organizations that are trying to make a similar impact but are facing difficulty when it comes to those legislations? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Let's quickly answer the questions. We'll start with Dana on answering the question on how can we leverage technology and social media to address gaps in education.
So I think going back to the work of the Education Above All Foundation, I'll reflect on a project that we worked on in 2014 in Gaza. After the 2014 war, we decided to reconstruct entirely how we approach education in the reconstruction realm, in the rebuilding realm. And we noticed that addressing conflict-affected areas that have lost the access to both education and technology and that suffer from the digital divide, the approach had to be twofold. On the one hand, we had to restore access to education, but on the other hand, we had to also empower, restore dignity, which has been entirely stripped during times of war, and allow access to technology and job opportunities, because those two go hand in hand. And so we shifted the focus from local employment and looked at how, through education, we can bridge that gap and then build a bridge, let's say, and then connect them to global employment opportunities. And so we went on with a partnership on platforms like Upwork, and we trained 100 youth in, let's say, web development, coding, and other essential skills that are globally needed. And we allowed them access to Upwork and other platforms to work online, remotely. And the result was honestly astonishing. Within exactly 3 months, 100 youth achieved full employment and collectively generated over 100,000 US dollars. And to me, that was a wake-up call, because this is a real invitation to representatives from the multilateral corporations, but also the private sector, the people who are on the ground. Look at ways that allows for stability beyond just access, and that allows for growth and thriving. I think it's important when we consider, specifically in my area of work, in places of conflict, restoration of dignity, healing of trauma. It's really about how we can come together to answer their needs. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Due to the shortage of time, I would like Yugratna to answer the question that was being asked from a delegate from Nepal.
Thank you, and that's a great question. So I think when you look at the ECOSOC cycle itself, right, a number of things that happen at the ECOSOC cycle. So it starts with the partnership segment, partnership forum in January, and then goes all the way, it's pretty much throughout the year. Coordination segment, STI forum, ECOSOC, HLPF, regional HLPFs, which are called the Regional Forum on Sustainable Development and more. A lot of these avenues are participation-based avenues. So it involves young people having a designated mandate, of course, which exists through the major groups that you excellently pointed out. And we have been working to ensure more and more funded opportunities for young people to go to these, and they differ depending on the context. So for example, if you look at the Asia Pacific Regional HLPF, the Regional Forum on Sustainable Development, there was a youth forum that took place just before it, in which we were able to fund, I think, around 40 to 60 young people from different parts of the Asia Pacific region to come. ECE had a similar process, but a smaller number, I think 5 or 6 youth that were funded. ECE stands for Europe and Economic Commission on Europe, so that's Europe, Eastern Europe, and other areas. I think so that is one part, right? Like, how do you make sure that young people are actually part of participating in these avenues? And other part, of course, is the programmatic work that is done as part of or in lead up to these ECOSOC avenues. So, for example, a good example is the VNR, so voluntary national reviews that country do every year, which report on the progress of what they're doing on implementing the SDGs. And they report those VNRs to HLPF. So that's another avenue, and it's probably easier that, avoids flying to New York or flying to any other places. So within your own country, actually contributing to your country's VNRs. And in many cases, young people and CSOs actually write their own shadow VNRs. So it's like, okay, what the country says it's doing and what young people think that they're doing and what is missing. So that's another way of getting involved. Last year, Nepal actually presented their VNR, and we had young people actively engaging in that process. I think the final bit of this would be how you engage in some of the intersessional reports and other moments that are happening as part of the ECOSOC cycle. So the ECOSOC sees, I think, over 10 or 15 substantive reports ranging from implementation of human rights to environment, and the report from UNEA, report from the aspects of social development and other issues. So how are young people substantively contributing? And we have been working extensively with DESA and different divisions that are authoring these reports to have young people part of it. So for example, GSDR, which is the Global Sustainable Development Report, which is written by scientists. We're trying to have a youth workshop and hopefully include a young scientist as part of that drafting process. Similarly, the Global Climate SDGs and Synergies report was informed by young people. So I can go on and on. So the point is, there's devil lies in the details, and to some degrees it requires funding. Other degrees it requires political will from the government, the ECOSOC presidency, and DESA to actually go ahead and do certain things which are easy for them to do.
Thank you. Thank you. Due to time constraints, we have all the speakers here in the room. I know there's some pending questions, so get your answers by the speakers, get them. They will be here after when we're gonna end this program. So thank you so much. I would like to thank all the youth speakers here with us on the panel. And we had a really, really powerful discussion. It was my honor to share the table with these powerful young people. And we look forward to see you over the next few days more. Next, thank you so much. And I would like to give the floor back to Ms. Yumna Khan so she can say the final closing words for today. Thank you, Yumna Khan.
Okay. Thank you so much again to all the youth speakers. As we come to a close of today's event, I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for your presence, your voices, and your unwavering belief in a better world. Today, we listened to such inspiring journeys of youth on localizing the SDGs and how they work with technology to build strong partnerships, contributing to a more cooperative and a peaceful world. We learned so many ways youth are localizing the SDGs at the grassroots level. One lesson became more and more apparent. To quote Daniel Opes from AFS, technology can connect us, but people actually unite us. Shah also raised a similar point when he discussed those were the only two things he had when he helped build the movement in his country to bring real change. So, a reminder from one of the other youth speakers that I felt like we should all also walk away with is that not getting lost in building yourself as a brand, but also just remembering our purpose as something that we really had when we began our journeys. When you walk into a room, tap into the power of those that were holding you up, standing beside you or behind you. Those were some incredible moments for me when I was listening to the youth speakers. International Youth Day 2025 is not just about reflection, it's about momentum, and you are already leading through your ideas, your collaborations, your use of technology, and your determination to build bridges. While we have gathered to recognize the achievements of youth, there is much to do to pave a way forward for a future where young people can thrive, lead, achieve, build, feel heard, and empowered to do what makes a world a better place. Today, we came together as a global community of young people, standing in solidarity in the face of uncertainty. Let us leave here not just inspired, but committed. Committed to using technology to connect, not divide. Committed to building partnerships that are inclusive, not exclusive. And committed to a kind of leadership that listens, includes, and transforms. I thank everyone who joined us as distinguished speakers, and all youth leaders and guests joining us from all over the world, and of course, those who are watching us online. Thank you again for being an amazing audience, and happy International Youth Day. And that means we rise, and we take photos, and we head out.